Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Closing Time Podcast. I am super excited today to be joined by some of NFM's strongest people. I've actually wanted to do this for quite a while as a roundtable with some of our more high-performing individuals because they've already gone through some of the stages that I've experienced in my career and really have helped other individuals in our division achieve success and help their realtor partners achieve success. So today we're going to talk about 4 different approaches. I don't think there's, 4 individuals that could be different as far as the way they approach business. Joey and Andy might be a little more similar, but just really unique approaches. But one goal always at the end is the success and the delivering on the promises to our clients. So today we're going to talk to Joey Sester, who handles Southern Ohio, Kentucky markets. We're going to talk to Andy Beigel, who handles Central Ohio, grew up in Daniel's team essentially and has gone through everything. And then somebody that Andy has mentored, Diana, who is under Andy's branch and has gone through a lot of those same things and learned best practices. And then I'll share anything that's interesting on my end too. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. I know time is of the essence here, right? Is in the middle of the spring season. So thank you. To start off, I want to talk a little bit to Andy. You don't do a ton of content, so we don't get to hear a ton of your story. So I want to go from, give me a brief overview of how you got into mortgage, quick snapshot on what it was like on Daniel's team. And then I want you to spend some time on the transition to the LO and then how the strategy has really helped you succeed.
Yeah, so I do not like doing content, as Dakota will let you know. But I started in the industry in 2017. I was a dialer, or the glorified name that we have now is an inside sales associate for that role.
How many calls a day?
I was making upwards of 100 to 125 calls a day. Back then, we didn't have any speed dialers. It was actually, you had to plug them all in on the phone. So I was making 125 calls a day, mostly to add leads and trying to just get applications. And then I would transfer them to Daniel's loan partners at the time who, some of them are still at NFM Lending. And, from there, I learned the mortgage business from both Daniel and Alex Thompson, who is our VP of sales. And I really started seeing a potential future for what I could do in this industry. And at that time, I had made it aware to Daniel that I wanted to transition to be a loan officer. And we set up a transition plan for me to make a transition in April of 2019. So April 2019, I transitioned to be a loan officer. Didn't have any referral partners, but I knew how to work the referral game because I had been servicing Daniel's referral partners and in the retail market, for those 2 years. And so I made that transition, was able to fortunately pick up some referral partners through some marketing strategies that we implemented with, campaigns and identifying which referral partners might be good ones to go after. Yeah. So we really leaned on the marketing team that we have in-house to expedite the growth pattern there. And then 2020 hit, and it was just chaos. So I didn't have any clients to refinance in 2020 or 2021 because I didn't have any clients, right? I had no backlog or CRM of business. So as everybody else was really chasing down refi business or just catching the money falling out of the sky with refinances, I was still pounding the pavement and hustling just to get a realtor to refer me a purchase deal. And there was a really great opportunity in 2020 and 2021 while lenders were dropping the ball doing the refinance business to capitalize on new agent relationships. And so I really had a massive growth year in 2020 and 2021. And in 2020 is when I added my wife, Leslie, who has really allowed me to grow further.
Total badass.
Yeah,
absolutely.
She's
great.
Secret weapon for sure.
Absolutely.
Look,
that's really where we should have started.
I don't disagree. It's very unfortunate for me. She gets to be the looks and the brains.
Right. Yeah.
But
you lucked out. You found her. Locked her down.
I definitely married up.
Yeah. Right.
There's no doubt about that. So
like going through that process, and we focus on a lot of coaching here. How much did that experience mold what you focus on with like Diana or Ryan or anybody that you're bringing in?
yeah, I mean, it's integral. It is at the core of my beliefs and what also helped me grow. I remember when I was on Daniel's team, he would walk out of his office and you could just tell he was on one. And he would then ask everybody right there in front of the whole sales team, and even the operations team was in the office at that time. I'm sure Dakota remembers some of these conversations. He would just ask somebody, what is the rate rebuttal? Or what is the cost objection? And he, you know how Daniel talks, right? He's very loud. And so you would have to regurgitate the script objection. And if you got it wrong, it was the most embarrassing thing ever in front of all 30 teammates, right? And you would not mess up again if you made that mistake. And so
it's not like that anymore, guys. Just so everybody knows.
I was gonna say, you don't do that to me.
No, it's not.
You never
It's
do that
not.
to me. I would cry.
But back then,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
mortgage industry has changed quite a bit.
It
But like
has.
that was kind of the mentality
That
in a lot
was.
of places.
It 100% was. But those, simple but, important details of the process were perfected to every little degree, right? The way that you sent an email, the way you responded to somebody on the phone, how many times you called somebody and at what times of the day you called them, how you updated a referral partner. All of these little simple but important parts of the process were all perfected. And, I learned a lot of those things while I was on Daniel's team. And we hold a lot of the originators now in our branch accountable to, making sure the way they respond, making sure the way they have a realtor meeting, the way they, present our value proposition as a company or, as a individual. It is a very robust process, but it's simple.
And you said something that is kind of key to like our core. You guys developed a transition plan, and everything here is documented. Every strategy, every word, everything is documented for us to be able to be successful. And kind of just a shift to the Cleveland side of things, when your situation was my situation a year early, because I came in at the beginning of 21.
Yeah.
No referral partners, new build.
Right.
And Daniel kind of mentioned, like, I just did this with Andy. And
Yeah.
like, this was the success story. And honestly, that was kind of what pulled me in. And you were really key in sharing so much with me. And that's something that we all have. Joey, I want you to speak to this when we kind of talk about that, but like how quickly people get integrated into the group and like feel comfortable. Texting a group chat of 76 people of your peers can be a little intimidating when you're a brand new loan officer.
Sure.
Especially if you're trying to answer a guideline question. You're like, I hope to God I'm not wrong. I hope to God I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
But in that 21 time frame, that was kind of what made me make the leap, because I would wake up every morning and just say I'm not a refi LO. And that's what I would tell my realtor partners. And that was the documented strategy at that time.
Yeah. And I think a way that we've created and fostered that collaboration internally is because of the systems that we have in place to protect the loan officer's relationships and the loan officer's clients, right? We know whether or not that's an agent we can prospect based on whether they have a relationship with an NFM loan officer or not, right? And it goes a long way to being able to develop that culture of collaboration opposed to the traditional culture in mortgage, which is you eat what you kill and everything is fair game.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So,
yeah, the collaboration is really something unique here. And, kind of going into like a new market, was that something you considered when you were switching? Because you've been here, what, 6 months
6
now?
months, yeah.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, I mean, that was something that visit one, we were made aware was very relevant.
What struck you? Like, take me through your transition, because we haven't talked about this. So, like, what was how did Andy and Daniel and whoever else was involved, like, what did that process look like for you? Because you brought over how many people?
We're a team of roughly 10.
Okay.
If you are factoring in ops and
So
our
just a
producers.
small, like, nobody's life at stake or anything here. So tell me a little bit about what that transition was like.
Yeah, I know, coming into this was something that, we all knew visit one was something that we needed to do. it was getting past, of course, the decision and the toughness that comes with it, because change is never easy. Everyone recognizes that. But I also felt like it was an opportunity for us to kind of recharge, really kind of expedite like a vision that we had for the future, and ultimately have something that would motivate us to kind of press into what we had wanted to from the start. I would say the big thing was the collaboration, like you mentioned, though. Coming into the office in Columbus that first time, the culture as a whole, just seeing everyone there, clearly enjoying what they do. When problems would arise, we've got our communication platforms that we use, the constant communications back and forth. Everyone wants to help each other. That was something that, Andy, you kind of talked about this. The industry, it's not common for people to want to help each other. And that was something that was made very clear. You've got different branches, you've got different teams, but everyone collaborates. Yeah. Everyone wants to help each other, and we all want to grow. So, I mean, that was huge for us.
So how long were you in the industry before, like how long have you been in total?
Yeah, so I got licensed in August of 2021. So same year as you, and it was very quick. It happened what seemingly felt like overnight.
Yeah, that was a rough time because like it wasn't 2-3% rates. It was starting to go up.
That
at
was
point
as it started to kind of transition. So everyone was freaking out. Everyone was stressed, and I think that's one thing that at NFM we do such a good job of navigating is obstacles. Yeah, right. And that was something that it's been made clear to us that anytime something happens in the industry, what does NFM do? They re-strategize. They ultimately get in front of things. They're not stuck in their ways. Right. We're very agile, and Daniel is an advocate for change.
Speed to implementation.
Yeah, speed to implementation. That's the big thing that he's always pushing.
You said something I thought was interesting. You said you had a vision, and then you walked into NFM, and like, was it a moment where like you saw kind of the fruition of what your vision could be? Talk about like, was that a value alignment for you? Go a little bit deeper on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think winners as a whole often typically have some type of, vision for the future, right? What do they want to build? Defining that is ever changing, of course. But a lot of times I think the support and the structure of where you're at in life and business is a huge factor. And I could clearly see with Daniel and the team here at NFM, there was no ceiling. You know what I mean? What do you want to build, and we'll help you build it. What was ultimately the message that was delivered. So for me, it was advanced systems, it was streamlined processes, it was collaboration, it was constant team effort. It was the ability to be agile, like I mentioned earlier, and change with market conditions. Something that, I could not find something about the structure of this team at NFM that some could argue to be a handicap. There was not one there. So the decision was pretty easy.
I've noticed like the more we get to interact and the more you integrate into like the group and everything, a lot of what you do, you were already doing before you got here. And I think a lot of us are attuned to that, where it's like the group text thing where, hey, we're doing something, but now there's a documented process and now there's a streamlined process and everything. So, and I just want to point out real quick, I want you to brag. Do you know your numbers since you've joined, like what your branch numbers are? Because like to be licensed in August of 21, to grow a team to 10, and then to close the amount of loans that you were closing is truly an incredible feat. I just want to take a second and point that out. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm not a numbers guy. I know Daniel loves his numbers. He's constantly looking at reports, and I'm appreciative of them because they help me understand like obviously the health of our business model. But at the end of the day, I just think it's all about process. We wake up, our team wakes up every day with tasks in front of them. You know what I mean? We're going to implement those tasks whether we're crushing it or not. And when you keep consistency in this industry, if there's anything I've learned about this industry, is consistency will always reap fruit.
Inputs over outputs.
Absolutely. So I would say that, it was a process for us as a team that was already working. But coming here with all of the advanced tools, the support, the collaboration, the wow factor, I feel like that's
there you go.
NFM has the wow factor. Yeah. You ultimately, you go and you make that call to that listing agent and they know who you are. They've heard of you and you've never spoken to them before, which is a pretty darn good feeling. And when I say they've heard of you in good spirits, right?
Yeah, right.
There's two versions of that.
Sure. You're known or you're known.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there is not a stat line below Joey's name as he's talking with like all the numbers and everything, I'm going to be truly disappointed when I watch this video. Before we move on, what advice would you give somebody ready to make a change? Not specifically to NFM, but like, what are some things that you really had to go through being responsible for other people's livelihoods, how they make a living? What were the 3 most important things that you looked at before you really made that jump? What were the 3 things that you sat down and you were like, these are key to before I can make this jump?
Yeah, I think, we talk about winners and their desire to obviously have process and a future wherever they're at. Scalability, like that's a big thing, right? Mm-hmm. If you've got this vision, but there's no scalability that comes with your vision, you're in the wrong place. Right. So scalability was a big thing. I am a huge advocate for character. And, that was made clear so quickly here at NFM and with this team. Everyone has each other's interest, at best heart all the time. Like they're always thinking about each other. They want to advance success in multiple ways. Beyond that, I would just say the collaboration, right? You know what I mean? The constant, the team environment that is very relevant here at any given moment.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think I've blown the group chat up like 5 or 6 times already this morning.
We all do. No, it's part of it.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is. Well, especially if you don't know how to do something and somebody does, or you get to find out that you're the guinea pig and you get to mess it up for the first time. So,
right.
Yeah. I want to transition a little bit, and I don't think there's a more accurate representation of a woman in a male-dominated field than you sitting here with 3 guys. So we've gotten to talk a little bit about like your story and all of that. And I want you to share that in a brief minute, but like talk about what your business looks like now versus what you had a vision of when you started. Let's kind of start there before we start into the history.
Yeah. So as far as people and realtors that I work with, I like working with people that I get along with. And when I came to NFM, I was like, I want to work with people that I genuinely like working with. I don't want to sit here and wait for a phone call and talk to a random person in a random state. And not that I didn't like it, I just saw myself wanting to work with people that I actually liked, and I felt that would help me enjoy my job more.
Sure.
So I didn't really see myself being where I'm at now then, but it's just crazy to see like how, being on social media and like going to networking events and just meeting people has grown my business and helped me connect with so many people. And now I'm working with those people and really enjoying what I'm doing and who I'm working with. So
you have one of the most unique business models, like because you literally are just you. Like,
yeah,
right.
Right.
That's accurate.
So like,
we love Diana.
Yeah. So
everybody loves Diana.
How do you coach somebody that's like you just go in and say, you're kicking ass, keep being genuine? Like, how do you build a system around that? And like, how does that look when he's coaching you and implementing that?
Well, it's kind of funny because I don't follow everything to a T.
I don't think,
but I take certain things and I'm like, oh, I can use that, and I feel like that could help me. So I'm not sitting here like following a script line by line, and that's just not what I do. That's not how I run my business. But there's certain things that I could take away, just like the group message thing. Like that was really, really huge for me, and I was happy to share that with everyone too. And I'm happy that I was able to help everyone, and people use that now. I'm like, it's so cool that it's helping everyone here. But there's certain things that I'll take away, and I sometimes sit here and I'm like, should I be following like every single little thing? Like, and I think about that sometimes day to day, but what I do works for me, and that's really all that matters. So
you got to make it yours.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's very important.
Yeah. So
I say find your voice a lot to like young loan officers, because like they'll read the script and like not everybody is a Brazilian dedicated machine and can talk that way.
Yeah.
Right. I say dude all of the time. It
Yeah.
could be a $1.5 million listing that's calling, and I'll be like, all right, dude, here's what we got. And I'll catch myself, but it's who you are. And
Yeah.
if you have people around you and you build your business and you have the credibility and systems around you, it can still work. So
Yeah. So
No, I agree. I think also with, somebody that's just naturally gifted and talented like Diana is with building relationships, you don't have to coach those things. And that's what the difference between a good coach and a great coach, right? Is we're not trying to reshape or remold Diana into what worked for us. What we'll do instead is provide other supports that maybe will allow Diana to grow further, right? So maybe more on the technical side of helping figure out a file, or with, providing tools like income, tools to verify all of her pre-approvals are accurate, right? And support structures that way, because we don't need to coach Diana on how to get referral partners. They will come to her.
Yeah.
She's so likable and fun and great at, her job that's not something we need to coach Diana on. But what we can help Diana with are efficiencies with tools, or, efficiencies with ensuring 99.9% of her deals get to the closing table.
Mm-hmm.
And, those are more of the structures or strategies that we're using from a coaching standpoint. And that changes with everybody that, you mentor or that you bring on, right? And some people will have the technical skills and really love the technical side of things more than they maybe should as a loan originator. And but they need help on the acquisition of referral partners, or they need help on selling or presenting mortgage options. And whatever that is for each one is what we're doing from a high level to coach each person that comes into the organization, into the branch. And Diana's been a really easy example of, helping her grow and get to the success that she desires. And she's made it easy on us and fun at the same time.
yeah.
well, it's good because I'm able to basically run my business how I want to and do what I want to do. But then if I need something, I call Andy or Leslie, and they're there to help me. So
You still feel
Yeah.
like you're being held accountable
yeah,
to what you need to be successful.
yeah, absolutely. But I could do it in my own way.
Right.
So there's certain times where I feel like, oh my God, I feel like I'm falling off. I don't have enough contracts, or my realtor partners, I feel like I'm getting away from them, or I mean, everyone feels that way sometimes in their
yeah.
business, right? But then it's like this. But then as of when I'm really, really busy, I need help with something, I'm like, I call Andy or Leslie, and they're able to help me immediately. Even at 11 p.m., I'm like, are you awake?
Right.
I'm like a night owl, so
Checking for green bubbles on Teams. All right, who's up right now?
Oh no, I just call their cell phones. I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like we talk about collaboration
Yeah.
so much, right? And how important that is here at NFM, and structure and process. And we even use the word accountability. If there's anything I've noticed here at NFM is development is almost required.
Yeah.
It really is. And you can't avoid it. You cannot hide from development here.
Yeah.
We've got all these companies out here. You hear about weekly calls. That's a common thing. That's not something to brag about typically. But the weekly calls here, we're not going through reports. We're not going through results. They are true coaching calls. Yeah. And if there's anything I've learned about coaching, if you want to get really good at something, coach it.
Yeah.
No, it's a way to force you to become better at it.
Yeah.
And what does Daniel do? Calls us out on these calls. You turn your camera off, don't matter.
Joey,
that's how you get called out. If you turn your camera off, that is how you're getting called out.
Joey, how many contracts you get this weekend?
Yeah.
What worked?
Well, I really like that, because the accountability is something that's key, and our numbers are posted, but it's not in a shameful way. It's here's a motivation while we're doing really good. We tend to call people out, and like you said, you have to be on there, and everything is intentional. That's one thing that's really different. And I mean, you apply that to your life, things get better,
Right.
Yeah. And I think, to Joey mentioned, right, is we have a structured coaching process here where every Monday, every Tuesday, monthly one-on-ones, right? The amount of coaching that a loan originator is getting, 9 hours per month, from 4 of the top 200 loan originators in the entire country
Mm-hmm.
is something that you can't find anywhere else.
Not at all.
You can, but you'll pay for it.
Yeah, you can't. You're
Well,
right.
they're
You
not all in
can't-
the same place.
Yeah,
either,
you're right.
You
You
know?
can, but it just costs you $3,500 a month.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right. And then maybe those originators aren't even actively producing anymore.
Yeah.
They
Right.
produced 10 years ago when the market isn't the same that it is today.
Still delivering the same message.
And still delivering the same exact
Yeah.
message and the same exact, old fashioned processes that worked for them in 2010. But now, right, we have 4 of the top 200 originators in the entire country on a collaborative call every single Monday, going over the ways to win,
With
how
the
to help
entire
their
sales
realtors
force.
win.
In the weeds.
With the entire
Yeah.
sales force, right? And, it's not just keeping the secret to ourselves. It's, collaborating. We'll pick up things from Joey. We'll pick up things from Diana. We'll pick up things from you, obviously. And everybody will share what's working in their markets, and we can then implement it in our own market. And now, instead of having to figure something out the hard way or through trial and error and potentially losing relationships along the way, we're just able to fast track ourselves to success almost overnight because of the environment that we're creating with coaching, the accountability, and the collaboration.
And we get to try it at 50x, 65x,
Yes,
and
right.
we get to
Exactly.
implement it very quickly. So
Mhm.
like everything is being done. And when we're in a multiple offers situation, like we just have 18 offers on the table.
Yeah.
It's listed at 215, went over 280, no inspections, all cash. And we went in at 250 with 14K appraisal gap, thinking we were,
Yeah.
big person on the
Yeah,
table.
yeah,
So
yeah.
having those strategic calls, the listing agent follow up,
Mm-hmm.
even if we don't win, and like those little things that get
Absolutely.
you 1 or 2 extra deals
Yeah.
a month without
Mhm.
even trying, just putting the system in place and building that habit.
Mhm.
Anybody else want to add to that? I don't want to stifle the conversation. This has been
No, I think everybody in our industry tries to overthink what they have to do to be different. But the reality is it's very, very simple, but it's task, but it's not easy. And so it's implementing very simple tasks at scale and being 1% better than what the competition is on 100 different things.
Right.
And that's what moves the needle forward. It's not, coming up with one trick that's going to, propel you forward and get you to the top. It's just executing on all of the small things at scale.
absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more inside baseball. Like, what are the things that are working right now? Because we're all facing similar yet unique markets. We're like, Columbus is our main market. So let's kind of start there. Like,
Mhm.
what are you guys seeing right now? Friday evening, somebody hit a showing, offer deadlines 8 p.m. Sunday. What does that conversation look like for each of you? Diana?
Yeah. So obviously not every buyer can be competitive, right? So when I pre-approve someone and I'm seeing like, oh, they might not have the funds for appraisal gap, they, don't have the best credit, or more like a weak buyer, but can still buy a house, but still a weak buyer in this competitive market that we're in now, at least in certain areas in Columbus, right? It's not every area, but setting the expectation is huge, because a lot of buyers will get discouraged if, I just send them out there. I know they're a weak buyer. Go offer on this house that's in Dublin, and it's probably going to go 50,000 over ask, right? Like that's not what I'm doing. Like, I'm setting the expectation like, hey, you need seller credits. You don't have appraisal gap coverage, so you're probably going to have to look at a house that's been sitting on the market maybe for at least 15 to 20 days at minimum. So setting the expectation is huge. There are some buyers out there who are able to offer appraisal gap. And when it comes to buyers like that, I always say, first of all, put your best offer forward. Do what you can, but don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. But I'm also communicating with the listing agent and figuring out what is important to the seller, because it's not always price. Sometimes it could be extended possession. Sometimes it could be a quick close. Sometimes they just want to work with a reliable lender, loan officer, and
So they know it's going to close.
exactly, they know it's going to
Right.
close. So it's not always price either.
Right.
So communicating with the listing agent is huge when it comes to like a more competitive situation. But like I said, with the buyer in general, just always setting the expectation for the buyer, because you never want to discourage the buyer either.
Yeah.
So, and you guys can piggyback off of
We
that.
talk about the
but
value proposition,
Yeah.
right? Andy,
Yeah,
you bring
yeah.
that up,
Yeah.
and I think it's so cool, like how maniacally focused we are on what I just said, the value proposition, right?
Mhm.
We're not just going to do the mortgage for you, right? We're not just going to close the loan. We're going to provide value. And I think something at NFM and the Great Lakes Division that we call the pre-approval consultation
Mhm.
is just a huge representation of what is entailed in that value proposition. You know, I can't speak for everyone at this table, but that that pre-approval consultation is when we set the expectations with our client on
Mhm.
what needs to happen to win.
Yeah.
I feel like you're at a table with three other men, right? We recognize men often struggle with pride. Okay, it's not an uncommon theme for that to be relevant. And I don't know if you guys experience this, but when you've got Johnny Smith who wants to go put an offer, and he found this listing for $215, and one that you talk about, on their way to the listing, he's already convinced himself he's not offering over $205.
And then he's not paying closing costs
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
It just hit the
And,
market yesterday.
you know,
Yeah.
that-
It was a perfect turnkey
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
that pre-approval consultation, it breaks the barrier. You know, you have that conversation with that individual that talks to them and says, hey, Johnny, I understand your desire to get a good deal, but let me talk to you about the journey in finding the home that you're actually willing to offer on for you and your family. That is an experience in itself. Imagine getting there and losing, and then doing it again and losing. So in that pre-approval consultation, we talk about those 10 ways to win. We talk about, the minimal impact from this 215 price to the 210. Are you really willing to walk away from the home that you've decided works for your family over $30 a month?
Yeah.
I'd be willing to entertain you, Johnny, that $30 a month and your Chipotle trip that you took on your way to the house, would you be willing to sacrifice that for the home of your dreams potentially? And I think, the answer is almost always yes, but they have to hear it and see it in that context to really accept it.
Framing the expectation without crushing dreams.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're
In
always
the softest way possible.
right. We're always looked at as numbers
Yeah.
people, and I think a lot of loan officers still take that approach. But we're not. This is an emotional purchase.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what separates the good officers from the good loan officers from the great loan officers, right? Is, we're not numbers people anymore. It's a different day and age. It is, how can we coach the client on getting their offer accepted and winning the home of their dreams, as Joey mentioned, which also correlates to the same things the realtor is telling them. And so when we can both create the same message, the realtor partner who's assisting the buyer in the transaction and the lender who's assisting the buyer in the transaction, the message is aligned and the buyer now feels more comfortable and confident to move forward, instead of just giving them numbers that they could have plugged in online. With technology nowadays, you can plug in your own numbers, right? And that consistent message and coaching of what the impact is, positively or negatively, allows the buyer to make a decision that they're comfortable with.
Confidently.
And confident.
Yeah.
You're laying that foundation for involvement too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of times these transactions in our industry, you get the pre-approval letter and ultimately the expectation is set is call me when you go into contract, right? And, in this market, especially with these higher prices and all that kind of stuff, these borrowers, they need the hand-holding, right? The realtors, they want to know that their client is being taken care of. And we talk about that pre-approval consultation and the 10 ways to win. It is a collaborative approach between you and the realtor. We're not doing the realtor's job, right?
Yep.
That's not what we're here to do. That is their job. They're the professional, but we are there to plant seeds for the realtor, right?
To support them.
We talk about the 10 ways to win. A lot of times, unfortunately, with a transaction, none of that's discussed until contract negotiations, unless you've had the pre-approval consult.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I've always felt that when you can plant those seeds, and of course, a lot of times, at least our team will include the realtor with the pre-approval consultation so that they're involved in that conversation. And it just makes for a much easier decision to be made at offer submission.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to add anything? I want to end on a little bit of a lighter note here. All right. So Dakota and Mike have put together a little quick fire round of just some things. So unprompted. You guys have had a chance to look at this, but you're loan officers, so I know you haven't.
Yeah.
So we're going to go around the room, and I'm going to be last so I can think about it. But Joey, one word to describe your mortgage journey. I want you cliche as possible.
Cliche as possible. One word to describe my mortgage journey. Relentless.
I would say that's probably pretty accurate for how fast and everything you've been able to achieve what you have so far. I love it.
I'm going to go with chaotic.
I love it.
Yeah. Just because of the time frame that you came in as an LO?
I think just the ever-changing market and how fast we decided to grow from being a loan originator in 2019 to now, running a branch of 23 people. It's chaos, and it's fun chaos, but it's chaos, and it keeps us on our toes.
Yeah. What do you have to say about the chaos?
Oh, it's very chaotic. But it's fun. I kind of live in the chaos.
Yeah, right.
I kind of like it a little
That's how
bit.
I operate.
I kind of like it just a little bit. It's weird to say.
It's
but
comfortable.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I would say if I had one word to describe my mortgage journey, very humbling.
Yeah.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Very.
Humbling is a good one.
That's a good one.
Really is. Yeah.
I would say unexpected.
That's a good
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
a
that's
good
a
one
good
too.
Yep.
I don't think anybody wakes up and says they want to be an LO, and especially like if
No.
you know me and the more you guys know me, like I'm kind of a nerd and a unique, but I don't think I ever would have said like I'm going to be in finance of any kind. So, what is the biggest myth that you want to bust live right now? Like, what is something you hear constantly from clients or realtors that you want to take a second and just soapbox?
The biggest myth.
Mortgage-wise.
Mortgage, okay. That you need money to buy a house. I mean, seriously.
That's a fair one.
Isn't that crazy to say? But
if you
things
can
that we
cover
can
the
make
appraisal
happen.
up front and be okay with getting it back.
Right.
That's a good one. What about you?
I'm going to go with interest rate is the most important.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because it's not.
It's not at all.
No.
As
How
we
many
all
other
know.
things factor?
I mean, look, you can take a higher interest rate with no mortgage insurance and your payment's lower.
Yeah.
What do you care more about, a lower payment or your interest rate?
Right.
You can put no money down and have a little bit of a higher interest rate instead of putting down 20%, right? But you're able to build wealth through real estate quicker in 3 years than if you were to try to save up 20%, or whatever that myth is in your head. So that's
$120 a month or 20 grand more at closing. I mean,
right.
That's,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need perfect credit. That's definitely like people are like, oh, I thought I need 700 credit. I'm like, I've done loans that people have like 550 credits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
I am going to go with that FHA is not a first-time
That
home
too.
buyer.
Yes.
Yeah,
What does
I
FHA
hear that
stand for?
constantly.
What's up? with
FHA
that?
stands for first time home buyer, right? Yeah.
Put the acronym out there. FHA. No. So Federal Housing Administration. You can usually only have one at a time, but definitely not a first-time home buyer program.
funny.
Ooh, you guys put this one in for me. What is your favorite resource that you use on a daily basis in your business? Whether it's internal or external.
I would argue that just the implementation of video interviews, like just Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, the ability to get more work done because you may not have to go meet that person in person or, and have that meeting. It has been big for time, but it also, I feel like we talk all the time, like, what are we doing different than the next company? And there's a lot of high caliber mortgage companies out there that are doing phone calls.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty low expectation. But how many are doing video calls where they're sharing their screen, going through activities, coaching their borrowers, and educating, and also getting to know them? Like you're seeing that person's face. How many closings have you guys went to and you don't know which borrower's yours, like, or which person's your borrower.
Client appreciation events are the bane of my existence
Yeah.
because like I see them one
Yeah.
time and then you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I got to remember all my faces.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Love a good
Is Zoom
video.
a like requirement for you and your team? Do you, if it's not in person, it's Zoom?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We prefer Teams, but yeah, those pre-approval consults always done
Video
with a video
or in
Yeah,
person.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never done one over the phone. Always a video.
I would say mortgage coach. Dave Savage is going to love that answer. But
I
I
get on his podcast here next. You're
look,
going to be doing a lot of content now.
I don't know about that, but mortgage coach definitely is a game changer in the presentation of options with the borrower so that they can understand what they're getting themselves into and they can feel comfortable moving forward. So mortgage coach has been a game changer for me since I started in the industry, and we've used it my whole career.
Yeah.
But that is the number one tool that I will never go without.
100%. It makes explaining complex things so much more simple.
I don't know how I would review mortgage options with a client without mortgage coach.
Make a T-chart.
Yeah, make
And
a
then-
T-chart. Yeah. All right, option 1, option 2.
right.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would say, well, Andy and Leslie, having Andy and Leslie as a resource has been huge
yes,
for me.
yes.
And all
But
of them,
somebody
all
else
of
could
them,
leverage
and
it.
all of
Raise.
them.
Yeah.
Get to
No,
raise.
but,
I gotta
and
recruit
everyone,
too,
and all
okay?
the loan
So-
officers just being able, like, the
Okay.
technology I feel like has always been, like, technology, cool, whatever. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but like, I feel like it's kind of always been there, but being able to have all the loan officers to talk to and collaborate with, I guess the coaching is
Yeah,
the biggest
that's
thing.
really fair. Yeah.
I mean, that's helped me the most. I feel like that's what caused me to grow to the point where I'm at now, is having all of these loan officers who are able to share what they're doing and how it's working for them. And I'm able to implement that into my business. So
To the point, like video calls,
Mhm.
how many of us have hopped on calls with other loan officers to like review something just
Yeah.
like real quick?
And
on-
then record that call.
Yeah, well,
I'm
And
really
save
bad at that. I
and
need to do
save
better
that
at
for
that.
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about saving time
Yeah.
and how do we be more effective with it. And recording those calls has been big for us.
Trying to suck up for that punch on AT.
Yeah. He deserved it.
My favorite resource, I'm going to go external.
Okay.
Mortgage News Daily is
Yeah, yeah,
probably
for
like
sure.
my number one. Like, I check it every day. It's the most accurate. It's never going to give you your rate because your
Mhm.
rate is your rate, but it
Right.
is the most accurate and true mortgage survey that you can see out there. And it actually gives you real information.
I've been saying it to my clients, the link.
Oh, dude, I do it all the time.
I'm like, look at this.
Absolutely.
This is what's going on.
Mhm.
Rates went down today.
great.
Nah, here's a screenshot of mortgage rates hit Q3 high or whatever happened
Right.
yesterday. So like,
I think you showed
just
me
that.
that.
Yeah, it's
I sent it with my pre-approval. I send it.
free phone app, everything.
it. Yeah.
That one I like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You really are a nerd, Kyle.
Oh, dude, I was gonna say Resi Club. There's a whole nother thing, but yeah, I am a
I
nerd.
love you.
Rapid fire. What is one piece of advice you would give an LO starting in 2025? Just like one sentence or one thought.
One piece of advice. I would just say be very high character. There's a lot of pressure in this industry to make it happen, and sometimes that can cause you to potentially maybe not be high character, but simultaneously being high character, be maniacally focused on becoming well known. Because if you're high character and nobody knows about you, not going to get many results.
Yeah.
So that's what I've got.
I always go back to the 3 things that will create a successful loan originator or just a successful person in life, and it is you've got to work really hard in this industry. It's not easy. Everybody thinks that loan officers, work 20, 30 hours a week, and that loan originator is putting in 60, 70 hours a week. So you got to work really hard. You've got to do the right thing and finding a mentor. If you do those 3 things, you'll be successful in any endeavor in life, but those are the 3 key characteristics I feel that somebody can implement.
Yeah, mentorship one is super important.
Massive.
I would say just do your job, do it well,
Right.
and just be yourself. Like, just wake up and do your job.
Yeah.
That's what I do. People are just like, oh, I'm not doing enough business. I'm not doing this. I'm like, do you wake up and do your job? Because if you just like do your job, then you'll close loans. It's not that hard.
Simple but not hard.
You know?
Yeah, simple but not hard. That's
Like,
exactly
we're here to
it.
work.
Yeah, we're here to work.
We're to work,
Yeah.
baby. Come on. Let's do it.
I'm going to go with my favorite cliche. It is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Love that.
Whatever happens, it's your
No matter
name on
what.
the bottom line.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
it's your job to fix it.
That's
so
right.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. A
this
lot
was
of good
fun.
times. You guys got a little looser as we went. So see, it's not as hard as you think it is.
Pony story.
Yeah, the pony story
yeah.
really lit it
That's
up.
what
That's what did it.
That's a good
I appreciate it. And thank you guys for listening. And we will see you next time.